faithfully delivering value by interpreting great books worldwide. Hi there, this is Sally with Book Talk. Today, we're exploring the book New Insights into Yongzheng's Ascension to the Throne. Written by Feng Erkang, a renowned Qing history expert and professor at Nankai University, Yongzheng is one of China's most debated emperors. He's often portrayed as psychologically twisted, brutally cruel, and merciless. Actually, all this negativity boils down to one thing: the controversy over Yongzheng's rise to power. Ever since he took the throne, rumors about Yongzheng's illegitimate claim have spread far and wide. His rivals spread all sorts of stories, aiming to show that Yongzheng stole the throne. Even respected historians like Meng Sen, a top Qing Dynasty scholar, labeled him a usurper. And nowadays, thanks to martial arts stories and palace dramas, Yongzheng's supposed usurpation has turned into a popular theme. It gets dredged up and sensationalized every so often. However, plenty of serious historians disagree, and Feng Erkang, the author of this book, is a key example. He argues that much of the bad press about Yongzheng comes from unofficial sources, which aren't very reliable. Take, for instance, the story that Emperor Kangxi wrote a will naming his successor. It's said that Yongzheng had someone tamper with the will, changing 14th son to 4th son by adding a stroke. But this is pure nonsense. Under Qing Dynasty rules, it would have been written as Imperial 4th son. If a secret will existed for the 14th son, it would say pass to the 14th imperial son. Altering 10 to U makes it pass to the 4th son. Totally illogical. Who'd believe that? Plus, official documents were in Chinese and Manchu. So even if Yongzheng nested with the Chinese one, what about the Manchu copy? So the idea that Yongzheng forged Kangxi's will doesn't hold water.
Whoever cooked up this tale knew nothing about Qing Dynasty politics. Total amateur.
But these wild tales from shady sources, just because they're sensational, end up spreading and muddying the waters of real history. Feng Erkang wrote this book to clear the air and lay out exactly how Yongzheng came to power. He dug into tons of original sources: the official records of Kangxi's reign, his daily journals, the same for Yongzheng, plus loads of Manchu documents. Armed with solid evidence, he weighed different viewpoints, sorted out the doubts, and concluded that Yongzheng's rise was lawful. So next I'll review the entire process of Yongzheng's succession. You can use this process to judge whether the claim that Yongzheng usurped the throne is credible. My explanation will be divided into 4 parts. First, under what circumstances did Yongzheng join the succession struggle? That is, the background to Yongzheng's succession. Second, how did Yongzheng win the succession struggle? Compared to his rivals, what advantages did he have? Third, what exactly happened the day before Kangxi's death? What force allowed Yongzheng to come out on top in the end?
Is it possible that he tampered with the succession?
Finally, in the 4th part, I'll analyze from a later perspective why Yongzheng's succession became a mystery and where the root cause lies. Okay, let's start with the first part, the background of Yongzheng's entry into the succession struggle. In the 47th year of Kangxi's reign, Crown Prince Yinreng was suddenly deposed, causing a major shift in the political situation. Yinreng was Kangxi's 2nd son and the eldest son of the empress, who was made crown prince at the age of 2. Kangxi established the crown prince early on to quell the ambitions of the other princes, preventing them from fighting bloody battles for the throne. As a result, the prince's ambitions were suppressed. But Kangxi never expected that the 2nd prince himself would have issues, because he had been crown prince for a full 33 years, stuck in an awkward state of eager to succeed but unable to, which tormented him mentally and physically, gradually warping his character. His filial piety and care for Kangxi diminished greatly, and Kangxi, being someone who highly valued family ties, was particularly sensitive to this. In the autumn of Kangxi's 47th year, Kangxi took the princes on a hunting trip to Mulan. On the way back, the 18th prince fell seriously ill. Kangxi was deeply worried, but the 2nd prince showed no concern at all.
This heartless behavior already made Kangxi very upset.
Even worse, every night when they camped, the second prince would wander outside Kangxi's tent, peering inside through gaps. This made Kangxi feel he was attempting rebellion, which crossed Kangxi's bottom line. So he decisively imprisoned the second prince. After returning to Beijing, he announced to heaven the deposition of his crown prince position. This was the first incident of deposing the crown prince. Oh, God, it's easy. After that, the struggle over who would inherit the throne officially began, kicking off a grand palace intrigue. Yongzheng. It was after this that he joined the succession battle. Next, we enter the second part of the succession struggle, a process full of overt and covert conflicts. First, I'll cover the initial stage, the open struggle. With the second prince deposed, the crown prince position was vacant. The princes eagerly competed for succession. Becoming the future emperor, what an irresistible temptation. And, naturally, Yongzheng was tempted too, but his cautious nature made him avoid being the first mover. So Yongzheng's strategy was to quietly watch other princes scramble. The first to emerge was the eldest prince, Yinti. According to records by Bai Jin, a French missionary near Kangxi, the eldest prince was dashing, clever, and beloved by the emperor. By Kangxi took him on all 3 expeditions against the Dungars for experience, and he was the first imperial son granted a princely title. After the crown prince's deposition, Kangxi specifically tasked the eldest prince and Yongzheng with guarding the deposed heir, showing deep trust in both. Facing this trust, Yongzheng focused solely on the task, careful never to seem overeager. The eldest prince lacked this insight. Misreading the situation, he thought Kangxi was hinting he'd be the new heir, so he overperformed, even suggesting killing the deposed prince to eliminate future threats. He even volunteered to handle the deed himself,
Believing he was easing his father emperor's burden.
Unknowingly, he'd struck Kangxi's raw's nerve, family bonds.
As mentioned earlier, Kangxi deeply valued kinship. His disappointment with the crown prince stemmed largely from that emotional neglect. Now the eldest prince advocated fratricide. Kangxi was appalled, turning from trust to utter disgust, calling him base and shameless. Other princes seized the moment, exposing how he'd used witchcraft against the crown prince. Enraged, Kangxi stripped his title and confined him for life through the imperial clan court. The palace drama had barely begun. With the first contender Yinti eliminated, next emerged the 8th prince, Yinsi, skilled, kind, and once Kangxi's favorite. In Kangxi's 37th year, 4 princes received the Baal title simultaneously. Yinsi was youngest, excelling in connections and likability. Raised by consort Hui, the eldest prince's mother, he naturally bonded with Yinti. When Crown Prince Yinrang mistreated the 9th and 10th princes, Yinsi united them against him, while also cultivating ministerial ties. Prince Fuquan, Grand Secretary Maki, Chief Imperial Guard Alinga, and Minister of Revenue Wang Hongshu all supported the 8th prince, giving him an unmatched advantage. The 8th prince enjoyed immense popularity among Jiangnan gentry and had ambitions for the throne, but he cautiously hid his intentions until the eldest prince's confinement removed a rival, making him sense opportunity. In November of Kangxi's 47th year, 2 months after the crown prince's deposition, Kangxi summoned officials to meet the new heir apparent. Seeing this, the 8th prince lobbied ministers to build momentum. Ultimately, Maki and Alinga led officials in endorsing him, with even retired elder statesman Tong Guowei backing him. The 8th prince thought, this must be it. Actually, he'd miscalculated. Kangxi detested princes forming factions behind his back. Now, the 8th prince had rallied hundreds of officials into a unified endorsement bloc.
What would Kangxi think? Wasn't this blatant factionalism?
Kangxi forbade prince minister collusion, not just to protect his power, but for deeper reasons. He knew emperors installed by ministers could be manipulated by those kingmakers, endangering imperial authority. Thus, the 8th prince had started exactly the trouble Kangxi feared. Sure enough,
Kangxi erupted, not only rejecting the endorsement but also demoting and imprisoning ringleader Maki.
So who was Kangxi's true choice? The answer remained the second prince, Yinrang. Kangxi's bond with him was too deep to sever. Learning of the eldest prince's curses, Kangxi believed witchcraft had caused Yinrang's behavioral changes. As Yinrang recovered mentally, both the eldest and eighth princes misread the situation. They assumed Kangxi had abandoned Yinrang and exposed their ambitions, precisely what disgusted Kangxi. Only the fourth prince, Yongzheng, accurately discerned Kangxi's intent. Like the eldest prince, he guarded the deposed heir but acted far more wisely. In mind. And once Yinrang pleaded, "Father's criticisms were fair, but accusing me of treason is unjust. I'd never dare." The eldest prince pretended not to hear. Yongzheng believed this matter was significant and conveyed this confession to Kangxi. Upon hearing this, Kangxi was moved and ordered the chains removed from the second prince, easing their father-son relationship. As for Yongzheng, he left a good impression on Kangxi as kind-hearted and caring about family bonds. At this time, when Kangxi asked ministers to recommend a new crown prince, Yongzheng assessed the situation and strongly supported the second prince. This perfectly matched the old emperor's wishes, and he viewed Yongzheng with even greater favor. Soon after, Kangxi granted him the title of Prince Yang, with Yang meaning harmony and peace. Kangxi was clearly praising Yongzheng for maintaining harmony among brothers. In March of Kangxi's 48th year, he formally announced the reinstatement of the second prince as crown prince. After going full circle, everything seemed back to square one. But things weren't that simple. Kangxi reinstated the second prince not just out of affection, but more importantly, to quell the succession struggle and avoid further fratricide and factionalism.
This meant it was a stopgap measure. The second prince's position wasn't stable.
Under extreme insecurity, the second prince's mindset became unbalanced again.
He often complained to people. His question was, in all history, who's been crown prince for 40 years? He even plotted another coup. Kangxi was utterly disappointed and finally deposed the second prince again.
Thus, the second prince's political career ended completely. He spent his remaining life in confinement. With that, the first phase of the succession struggle, the open conflict, concluded. In this phase, the eldest and eighth princes were eliminated first, while Yongzheng, by understanding Kangxi's mind and staying calm, gained an edge. Next, we enter the second phase. Simply put, it's the fourth prince.
The duel between Yongzheng and the 14th prince Yinti. Note that, learning from past lessons, they dared not compete openly. The struggle was mainly covert, each trying to boost their standing in Kangxi's eyes.
First, look at Yongzheng. From treating the second prince well and strongly backing his reinstatement, this shows Yongzheng was skilled at reading people's minds and quite shrewd. Daily, Yongzheng kept a low profile, not drawing attention. His main hobby was vegetarianism and Buddhist chanting. He housed many lamas, discussing Buddhist teachings all day, claiming to be the world's most virtuous man. But was Yongzheng truly at peace inside? Of course not. This can be seen from one detail. Yongzheng once wrote a secret letter to Mian Genjiao, instructing him, "As long as you don't betray the emperor today, you don't betray me." When you say don't betray Emperor Kangxi today, it's like saying don't betray me tomorrow, clearly equating yourself with the emperor. This shows Yongzheng deeply desired the heir position, though he deliberately hid it, acting obedient and composed before Kangxi. Actually, Yongzheng exploited Kangxi's weakness by playing the family card. After the second prince's final deposition, Kangxi became despondent and gloomy. Yongzheng frequently invited Kangxi to his private garden, Yuan Mingyuan, for relaxation. He even had his son Qianlong accompany them, letting Kangxi experience grandfather-grandson bonding, which greatly comforted him. Historical records show Kangxi visited Yuan Mingwan and other sites 11 times, including 3 visits in his final year, Kangxi's 61st year, proving their close bond. Yongzheng's family strategy worked brilliantly. But relying solely on it wasn't enough. Kangxi sought a throne successor. He needed proof of political competence and administrative skill. So Yongzheng crafted a meticulous, low-risk strategy. He knew Kangxi's brilliance meant appearing foolish would invite contempt. But over-cleverness, like the eighth prince's showboating that won court praise, risked seeming treacherous. Yongzheng aimed to demonstrate competence while making Kangxi see him as filial and utterly loyal. Thus, he employed dual tactics, completing Kangxi's assignments with utmost dedication. As early as Kangxi's 39th year, the 23-year-old Yongzheng inspected the Yongding River project, uncovered flaws, and oversaw corrections. Later, he contributed to managing the Yellow and Hua rivers, achieving solid results. In historical times, flood control was crucial for national stability and livelihoods.
Yongzheng's hydraulic successes undeniably showcased his political talent.
In Kangxi's 56th year, when Ming tombs were looted, Yongzheng investigated, uncovered truth, and punished culprits. During Kangxi's 60th year, after metropolitan exam results, unsuccessful scholars rioted over perceived unfairness. Yongzheng reviewed papers anew and quelled the unrest. In Kangxi's 61st year, corruption surfaced in Beijing and Tomzhou's grain distribution systems. Kangxi ordered Yongzheng to lead investigations. He audited accounts, established oversight systems, and reformed grain policies.
During these times, Yongzheng showed traits of being responsible, decisive, and fair in rewards and punishments, gaining Kangxi's approval, proving he truly had the talent for governing.
On the other hand, Yongzheng kept a low profile, always pondering carefully before making any decision. He understood Kangxi's intentions. When things succeeded, he didn't boast, but gave all credit to his father's wise leadership, staying cautious and avoiding interactions with court ministers. This way, Yongzheng built a good image in Kangxi's mind as capable and obedient. So, did Yongzheng really not form factions? The answer is no, but he did it extremely secretly, strictly following the principle of quality over quantity in people, and emphasizing quality. Yongzheng's factions came from two sources. One was his boyi, or household servants, with Daiduo and Nianzhengyao being the most influential. Daiduo was Yongzheng's key advisor. Playing the family card, showcasing talent, but acting low-key. These strategies were all first proposed by him. Nianzhengyao was a household servant for generations. He was intelligent from a young age, passed the imperial exam at 21, and Yongzheng nurtured him extensively. Yongzheng helped him serve as governor of Sichuan, then governor-general of Sichuan and Shanxi, becoming a high-ranking frontier official. With such a force as backup, Yongzheng felt much more confident. Another group of Yongzheng's factions were court ministers, but he only befriended Kangxi's close aides, with Long Kodo being the most crucial. Long Kodo's father was Tong Guowei, a veteran minister favored by Kangxi. Leveraging this connection, Long Kodo became a first-class guard, protecting Kangxi at a young age. In Kangxi's 50th year, Long Kodo was promoted to commander of the infantry, a very key position. He maintained security in the capital and reported directly to the emperor. By winning over Long Kodo, Yongzheng planted a spy near Kangxi. Once the old emperor's health failed, he could know immediately and react fast. Of course, forming factions was done behind Kangxi's back. In Kangxi's eyes, Yongzheng was still a good son, worthy of entrusting with important tasks. In the last 2 years of his life, Kangxi was in poor health and unable to perform the heaven worship ceremony, so he delegated it to Yongzheng. Heaven worship is a national event, usually undertaken by the monarch himself. Entrusting it to Yongzheng shows Kangxi highly valued his virtue and ability. Although Yongzheng's performance generally satisfied Kangxi, he had a weakness. His military talent was mediocre. For the Manchus, who prized horsemanship and archery, this was undeniably a shortcoming.
And in this regard, Yongzheng encountered a strong rival, namely the 14th Prince Yinti.
Actually, the 14th prince and Yongzheng shared the same mother, consort Dewuya. They were full brothers. But Yongzheng was raised by Empress Dowager Tongjia, so they weren't close. Instead, the 14th prince aligned closely with the 8th prince as a key faction member. After the 8th prince's succession failure, he pivoted to support the 14th prince as his behind-the-scenes strategist. Earlier, we noted Yongzheng used family bonds to win Kangxi's favor. But the 14th prince also had deep paternal ties with Kangxi. 10 years younger than Yongzheng and naturally obedient, he easily gained Kangxi's affection. For instance, Qing rules allowed princes to receive palace provisions for their households. The amount depended on imperial favor. The 14th prince received these longer and more abundantly than any other prince. And he kept receiving until Kangxi's death year, proving exceptional favor.
So, in paternal bonds, he matched Yongzheng, but militarily, he held a major edge.
In Kangxi's 54th year, the Zhengars invaded Hami. Qing forces fought for 2 years but failed to stop them from reaching Tibet, where they decimated Qing troops. Suddenly, the northwest frontier teetered on collapse. Aged and unable to lead personally, Kangxi sought a prince-general. In Kangxi's 57th year, the 14th prince was named Great General who pacifies the far with princely rank. Kangxi declared his orders carried imperial authority, demanding absolute obedience. His supporters rejoiced. Before departure, the 9th prince, 8th faction, visited daily, urging, "Seize this chance. Military glory could win you the throne." The 14th prince delivered. Advisors suggested he command from rear headquarters, avoiding the front. But he overruled them, personally leading at the front, making deployments while purging incompetent officers, boosting morale and combat power.
Under his command, Qing forces expelled the Zhengars from Tibet.
This campaign fully showcased his command genius, deeply gratifying Kangxi. Beyond warfare, the 14th prince kept one eye firmly on the Forbidden City. He gifted over 200,000 silver taels to the 8th prince's faction to lobby officials and win public support, who vigorously promoted him. Suddenly, with his military exploits, the 14th prince seemed poised to become crown prince. Thus, he became Yongzheng's strongest rival, each excelling in different areas. Yongzheng shone in political skill, while the 14th mastered military affairs. Comparatively, Kangxi likely favored Yongzheng. Because for a ruler, governance ability matters most. Yongzheng had another big advantage, staying near Kangxi constantly. The aging emperor's poor health meant Yongzheng could react instantly if anything happened.
This severely disadvantaged the 14th prince, who knew this weakness, and urged the 8th and 9th, "Watch closely for me."
Report immediately at any sign of trouble.
The 14th prince's worries were justified. Later events proved distance was the issue, but with ancient transportation, prevention was impossible. On November 13th, Kangxi's 61st year, he died at Beijing's Changchunyan at 68. Before death, he ordered Commander Long Kodo to proclaim Yongzheng's successor. Thus ended the covert struggle with Yongzheng's ascension upon Kangxi's death. But controversy never ceased, all pointing to one question. Now, that night Kangxi died. How did Yongzheng secure ultimate victory? Part 3 analyzes this unsolved case. First doubt to address. Was Kangxi poisoned? He caught cold on November 7th, became critical on the 13th dawn, and died that night. Only 6 days from illness to death, and before dying, he told Yongzheng days earlier he felt improvement. The suddenness fueled suspicions of poisoning, even rumors Kangxi drank toxic ginseng soup from Yongzheng and died instantly. The author debunks this. Kangxi consistently rejected ginseng, believing it harmful. Why would Yongzheng target Kangxi's known aversion? Even other poisons would likely fail, since Kangxi's trusted eunuchs belonged to the 8th prince's faction, guarding fiercely against Yongzheng. Additionally, according to Italian missionary Matteo Ripa's records, imperial physicians were present when Kangxi died. Yongzheng had no chance to act. Actually, Kangxi's death resulted from chronic exhaustion, compounded by the crown prince crisis weakening his immunity. A cold triggered fatal heart and hypertension issues. In short, Kangxi died of natural causes, As for claims that Kangxi left a will naming the 14th son, altered by Yongzheng to 4th son, we debunked this earlier. Impossible! In fact, Kangxi left no final will in his last years. He hesitated between Yongzheng and the 14th prince, loving both, unable to decide. Here, distance became decisive. During Kangxi's critical illness, the 14th prince was thousands of miles away. Returning would take weeks, risking power vacuums or coups by ambitious princes. Yongzheng was right there, enabling immediate succession for stable imperial transition, safeguarding Gyaro rule and national stability. And then finally, thus, Kangxi decisively named Yongzheng's successor. This makes Yongzheng's succession logically sound. Yet doubts arise about how the decree was delivered. Normally, multiple senior ministers should witness such a decree, but only Longkodo received and transmitted it. His ties to Yongzheng fueled suspicions that Kangxi was incoherent, and Longkodo forged the edict. The author counters. Longkodo was legitimately summoned. First, Kangxi realized too late to assemble ministers.
As infantry commander, Longkodo stayed nearby for quick summoning.
Second, Longkodo was Kangxi's cousin through the Tong clan, and his father was a long-trusted minister. Kangxi especially favored relatives, believing them reliable. At this critical moment, entrusting Longkodo made perfect sense. So did Longkodo's bond with Yongzheng play a role? Yes, but not to help usurp the throne, rather to ensure smooth succession. Emperor Kangxi passed away.
The next day, all 9 gates of the capital were shut, and imperial princes were barred from the Forbidden City. Effectively martial law.
These actions were naturally handled by whoever controlled the capital's defense, and Longkodo personally managed it. Meanwhile, Governor General Nian Gengzhao of Sichuan and Shanxi closely monitored the 14th Prince's movements. The 14th Prince's Northwest Expeditionary Army was stationed in Ganzhou, relying on Nian Gengyao for supplies. To march on the capital, they had to pass through Sichuan Shanxi territory, so he dared not act rashly and obediently returned to Beijing as ordered.
Some saw these measures as signs of Yongzheng's guilt and nervousness.
Actually, the succession struggle spanned over a decade of Kangxi's later years. After all the palace intrigue, brotherly affection was long gone. Yongzheng and the 14th Prince's feud lasted until Kangxi's last breath. The situation was that perilous. How could Yongzheng not feel tense at the start of his reign?
Closing city gates to guard against other princes was completely normal to ensure his enthronement.
As for recalling the 14th Prince to house arrest, and later dealing with the 8th Prince faction, nothing new there. Throughout history, losers in power struggles often met tragic fates. This has nothing to do with whether Yongzheng usurped the throne or felt guilty. With this, the entire story of Yongzheng's succession is told. After Yongzheng's enthronement, rumors of his usurpation spread endlessly. Traditional historians also judged him more negatively than positively. He's been labeled as cunning and cruel, and even today, the issue of his succession, the issue and his brutal character remain topics of public interest. So finally, let's discuss why Yongzheng was so disliked that he earned a tyrant's reputation in history. According to the author's analysis, I'll divide the reasons into external and internal categories. First, the external reasons.
After Yongzheng's succession, the 8th Prince faction felt helplessly disappointed and intensely resentful. Well,
They fabricated stories and spread them everywhere, claiming Yongzheng stole the throne from his younger brother, the 14th Prince, and that his rule was illegitimate. The 14th Prince himself became mentally unbalanced. After returning to Beijing, upon seeing Yongzheng, he refused to kneel to the new emperor. The scene nearly spiraled out of control. Of course, Yongzheng couldn't tolerate this. Once he'd secured the throne, he began dealing with the opposition. He had the 14th Prince guard Kangxi's spirit tablet, essentially house arrest. He punished the 8th Prince faction, who backed the 14th Prince even more severely. Yongzheng expelled them from the imperial clan and renamed the 8th Prince Akina and the 9th Sesei, meaning beasts worse than pigs and dogs. His resentment is evident. Despite this, rumors fabricated by the Eighth Prince faction spread among commoners, becoming dinner table gossip. Ordinary folks always relish palace scandals. As whispers multiplied and spread, they grew increasingly exaggerated and impossible to stop. Beyond commoners, many gentry also eagerly spread these rumors, linked to their attitude toward Yongzheng. Some policies he implemented benefited the court and people, but hurt gentry interests. Take the uniform service and grain tax policy. Previously, scholars with imperial degrees were exempt from labor and taxes, a gentry privilege. After Yongzheng's enthronement, he decreed everyone must perform labor and pay grain taxes, regardless of status, striking at gentry's core interests. Forced to comply, they dared not rebel openly, but vented by spreading palace scandals privately. This simmering resentment explains why Yongzheng's succession remained an irrepressible social gossip topic. Of course, suspicion toward Yongzheng also stemmed from his own actions, internal factors. Here we focus on two key incidents. First, executing meritorious ministers. First victim was Nian Gangzhao, who restrained the 14th Prince's army, ensuring Yongzheng's smooth succession.
Later, as great general who pacifies the far, he quelled rebellions in Qinghai, securing frontiers and bringing Yongzheng glory.
Overwhelmed, Yongzheng once declared,
"You are my benefactor."
Instantly, Nian became the emperor's favorite. Court officials flocked to flatter him. Drunk on power, he grew increasingly arrogant, until suddenly, the winds shifted. In late Yongzheng's third year, Nian was stripped of all positions for treason and corruption and ordered to commit suicide. Thus fell a legendary general from peak to abyss. Next victim, Long Kodo. In Yongzheng's fifth year, Long Kodo was convicted of factionalism, his property confiscated, and he died imprisoned, treatment of loyalists fueling suspicions.
That Yongzheng silenced witnesses to cover usurpation.
The author offers a different view. Killing meritorious officials was standard practice for autocratic rulers. Yongzheng wasn't the first nor last. As the saying goes, merit overshadows the master. When achievements grow too great, they threaten imperial authority. Countless meritorious officials and generals were killed for this reason throughout Chinese history. Though Yongzheng's methods were brutal, they weren't unusual. They don't prove he silenced witnesses. The second incident, more controversial, was publishing and writing Record of Great Righteousness, Resolving Confusion. In Yongzheng's sixth year, Henan scholar Zheng Jing urged Governor-General Yu Zhanji to rebel, but Yu reported him. Investigations showed Zheng's anti-Qing ideas came from his late teacher, famed Zhejiang scholar Lu Luoyang. Yongzheng pardoned Zheng to show mercy.
Lu Luyang's corpse was exhumed and publicly displayed as a warning, closing the case.
But one thing haunted Yongzheng. In his incitement speech, Zheng listed crimes like patricide, fratricide, and persecuting loyalists. Yongzheng realized even a scholar like Zheng heard such rumors, proof of how widespread the slander was. To clarify, he personally wrote Record of Great Righteousness. But this clever move backfired. This only gave people more reason to believe Yongzheng was guilty and making excuses. Mass printing under Yongzheng's order spread the succession dispute further, spawning wilder tales. Thus, a book meant to clarify facts turned into a surreal public gossip spectacle. Yongzheng's legitimacy became murkier than ever. No wonder Qianlong recalled and destroyed all copies upon enthronement. He knew complete silence about the past was the best way to protect Yongzheng's reputation.
But it was too late.
Conspiracy theories about Yongzheng's succession had already spread irreversibly among the people. All right, that concludes new insights into Yongzheng's ascension. Reading notes are below the audio. See you tomorrow.